I'm going to wrap up with my own presentation, which is going to be called Closing Remarks. It's only 1 hour long, so don't worry. But what I want to do is give you the 3 takeaways from today. What I heard, made some changes in real time, and I think what we were thinking that's happening. So the number 1 takeaway is open source, networking, and edge now mainstream. And we have become the collaboration hub. But there were a lot of questions during break on people wanting to understand how do these projects and foundations fit in at the Linux Foundation level. So I think I put a chart up. And let me show you how it works. We have 3, now 4 with OpenStack or Open Infra Foundation, now part of Linux Foundation, as you well know, as horizontal foundations. What that means is these foundations give us the guidelines and the baselines across all the domains. So OpenSSF gives us guidelines on how security for open source gets done. LFA and data are generic models and data that can go across multiple industries. Cloud native, Kubernetes and others, that is across multiple industries, and then of course open infra. On top, we have domain-specific sub-foundations. LF networking, which we talked about, unifying cloud, telecom, and enterprise. FinOS, FinTech, right? Edge. Edge gets even more verticalized into the domains of industrial, oil, energy, gas. So you can see how there's some logic to, just the logos. And then on the other side, you have more verticals, which are like energy or automotive or agriculture, whatever. And then we have some sub-foundations that are extremely technology-focused, right? RISC-V, decentralized trust, which is blockchain, OpenJS, etc. These are not everything, but I hope this gives you the baseline of how we do. There are about 1,000 projects total within Linux Foundation, right? And about 5 or 10 large sub-foundations that bring them all together, okay? So with that said, we're back to our famous diagram where we're still continuing the journey on everything from access, which is all of RAN, including SD-RAN. We're partnering with Open Air Interface, ORAN Alliance, the software community, all of that, plus LF Broadband, which brings in all the GPON, Telecom, Deutsche Telekom, they all have implemented the open source broadband, XGS PON, GPON, that's LF Broadband. You have LF connectivity, which is 60 gigahertz and sort of alternative connections there. You have all of the edge portfolio, which unifies the user edge and the service provider edge, and then the core and cloud, all the way from the NOSes, like Sonic that you talked about, to data plane acceleration like FIDO, DPDK, etc., Kubernetes, Nefio, SDN controllers like Open Daylight, orchestration engines, and then on the top, Kamaras and the Silvas, and then the VNFs and the XNFs, as we call it, the packet cores, and Leaf, which does the BPF lifecycle management. So there is some method to the madness, and for the technical people, I don't expect all of us to understand everything, but we are working very logically on trying to make sure that open source areas where we don't have coverage gets coverage, okay? And then we cannot do it all with ourselves, so we have, in the Linux Foundation, we have the ORAN community and the CNCF and the ALFA, all these communities inside, which we collaborate, and then very close collaboration with partners, whether it's OCP from the hardware front or SDOs that we heard from, or research labs, or any other core projects that go. And even non-member companies, I was looking at one of the LFH projects, 30% of the TSC participants are non-members. I don't like it, but they are welcome to do it. But that's how it works, right? That's the collaboration hub advantage. So that's number 1, okay? This is more of a serious topic, but I think we understand that regions are pushing local innovation, but they are dependent on global collaboration. We talked about one part of it, which is standards and open source. But I'm going to bring up the second part, which is the geography collaboration. Okay? So I'm starting off with US. So US government came in, all the 5 agencies, and they requested that we build everything moving forward on open source, everything including CUDU. Okay? They completed a project with Linux Foundation. They actually wrote a document which is available on how to secure open source for the government. They participated and contributed on securing the ONAP network slicing projects. So they've done a lot of it, and they're moving the RAN focus to open source CUDU. There's deployment with open source in AT&T and Verizon. Okay? So US started this journey, and it's leading the way. And APAC was together, right? And I'm kind of separating sort of China with the rest of APAC. But China government has huge policy decisions that they have made, including open source. Whether it's MIIT or CICT, OSCAR, MOST, all of these organizations facilitated with China Mobile, China Telecom, Huawei, ZTE, Unicom, all founding members and major contributors of open source networking, along with the US. Japan is very rapidly coming up, right, with Alex's leadership and SoftBank, right, moving into LFN and open source RAN and AI RAN. And then there's joint collaboration on data sets between the regions. So in general, the deployment with open source crosses these boundaries, and huge number of projects like OpenStack or Kubernetes, Sonic, EdgeX, and AI, they are all, global projects. So APAC and China are right there, right? A new player has emerged on the India side, where the government came in, and you can see a theme here. The government is actually helping open source, okay? The government is putting policies. So government of India came in, and read the right-hand top. They said, whatever that number means, adopt open source software and e-governance. They are mandating it. The reason is security, okay? And so all of the issues on why they want open source, right, which is alternatives to single vendor, or IP issues, or talent issues that Yona talked about. There are projects that are happening today in India. One of them is iOS MCN. So they are using an SMO based on ONAP to test with the government on how to deploy 5G. So a lot of good things happening. We also launched LF India in December to allow for this collaboration to happen. And the foundations that were participating are obviously telecom, blockchain, edge security, and cloud. And then the reason I kept EU last is because they're the ones who are really, really aggressively adopting this. You heard Sebastian talk about Deutsche Telekom deploying some of these strategic projects. Kamara came out of Europe, and now it's a global phenomena. We have 6G SNS as an organization. Silva started off in Europe, is a global thing to do a telco cloud infrastructure. And again, the theme goes back to EU legislation and regulation. Now, some may argue it's a lot more, too much regulation. Some may argue it's too less. Doesn't matter. We, as an open source community, have to look at the CRAs and how to support it and how to make it, how to meet the requirements. But the benefits is open source is there, and it's something that you can build on. So I'm really excited and happy that EU has really led the way. And let's not forget Telefonica. They were the original pioneers of the Mano project in OSM. So, through ETSI, or adopters, I should say. So again, it comes all the way down where the largest of the large carriers in Europe are all adopting and supporting, and most important, contributing, okay? So that's the global view, which I would say public-private partnership is built on open source, right? We didn't talk about this throughout the day, I didn't want to sort of bring in the government regulators and policymakers to do the keynote, but I thought it's important for us to at least understand that this is happening. And then finally, technology. That's all what drives us, right? And we have come a long way. So a reality check today, cloud native. This is in the infrastructure, okay? Because I was talking to James and the Omdia folks, right? Their numbers were different than what the survey was, and the survey was infrastructure, and their numbers were CNFs, or applications, I should say. So they're correct on the applications. Applications have not converted. Just because you can put a firewall in a Docker container, it's still a VM, I'm sorry, right? It doesn't follow the CNCF definition of cloud native. But on the infrastructure side, we're seeing lots of good progress. Domain-specific AI, I can't say enough, and you've heard enough, and the focus has been on frameworks and data sharing, and we're really glad that Infosys has given us a couple of projects to build on, so that the community can go very fast. Okay? And again, ESIDM and SELUS, you can read the meanings, but they mean something in the AI world. Okay? As I said in the beginning, right, AI is really AV. We need to collaborate on AI. There is no way one person can do it. That's the power of the community. Third thing is ORAN is in early stages, and we're shifting from open interfaces to open source, specifically the CUDU. I think US government will lead the way, and we will see a lot more research on that versus commercial products, but we're excited on that as well. And then we talked about the edge cloud continuum, edge AI, extremely important verticalized solutions. And finally, making money finally is beyond the normal, telco revenue. Kamara has really gone and reached peak awareness, and we're getting into the early adoption of Kamara. Verizon has implemented some fraud APIs, and they're saving a huge number of fraud cases. I think Deutsche Telekom has implemented several of these. So we're really at the cusp of implementation of APIs. So technology-wise, I feel pretty good. I think before I wrap up, this is probably going to be my last presentation here at the summit, because next year I will send my AI agent to present. Right? I'm not presenting. But with that, I think we're done. And there is a reception right next door. And keep asking tough questions to whoever you see. We need like the controversial questions. Then we can solve them. Okay? But appreciate you sticking here for the whole day. I'm very impressed that you're still here. We kept it separate and small so that we can interact. I hope that was useful. And then as we go tomorrow, that's your normal CFP technical developer in the telco day, so that the geeks are talking, so you can listen to them. But this is where decisions get made. Okay. Anyway, thank you for coming. Reception next door.